what he already has in his pocket.
Weekdays at 2 here on Local 3.
So sometimes during the commercial breaks, the panelists have spoken up and said, here's another point that I'd like to be able to make. So in one of those commercials, Beth had mentioned a little bit more on the sleep part of our conversation and how when you don't get the proper sleep, it does then lead to those breakdowns, I guess, if you will, in the brain. You had a name for them at the beginning of the hour, and I've forgotten them.
The plaques.
Well, the plaques, but then
yes.
wasn't there's something else, 2 words that you
The beta
used.
amyloid and the tau.
See, they know. Take it away, Beth. So if you are not getting proper sleep, though, it can really lead to problems.
Studies have shown, particularly a lot of the studies coming from Sanders Brown Center on Aging in Lexington, Kentucky, they're studying about the inflammation in the brain and how inflammation in the brain can lead to the development of those plaques that are associated with Alzheimer's disease. So when you are sleeping, you have these little cells called microglia that clean out the inflammation in your brain while you were sleeping. So if you do not sleep, you not give them the time to do their work. And I know that also we were going to touch on anxiety.
Yeah.
When we are very anxious, we have a level of cortisol that spikes, and those spikes in cortisol can have a negative effect on a little structure in our brain called the hippocampus, which is in charge of memory and learning.
So let's talk then, if we can, about the anxiety, because I'll go back and use my mom as this example. She's 94, and very often when I talk to her, things are making her stressed out. Simple things aren't simple anymore, and you can just feel it mounting. And I guess, Dr. Withers, it's because she hasn't been there before. None of us has been there before. We haven't gotten old yet.
Right, and so, and we talked about early signs that some memory loss or cognitive issues may be coming into place. Anxiety actually can be one of those signs because, is that individual anxious because they lost the keys or they forgot how to get to the grocery store, for example, when they always go to the grocery store. And so that can even just present itself as a symptom. And then, we talked about the sleep and the cortisol piece. Well, that also plays a part in our mental health. It plays a part in our weight. It plays a part in our memory and our concentration and our focus. So a lot of these things, just can compound on top of one another.
Especially today's older generation, I think, have a lot of pride, well-earned pride, and they maybe don't always want to admit that they need the help. So Ed, I'm going to throw this to you for a minute though, because you go through life changes as you get older. You lose friends, you lose family members. How does that not breed anxiety? And sometimes you need a little help to get you through. Do you ever see that at Nutrition World?
Anxiety is epidemic. There's no doubt that we have more percentage-wise of people ever probably in the history of mankind that is have anxious thoughts and or anxiety. I did a summit, anxiety summit with myself and 4 other experts in this city, and it's on nutritionw.com. You purchase it for $30. It's 5 hours of 1 hour a piece of the people I totally respect. Has every component of this, of how to treat the platform of it, which is the underlying roots like a tree. We don't, Xanax can play a role that's important in a very short run, but it's highly addictive and it's highly not solving the problem. A guy yesterday came in and we have a product called Anxio Calm. It's made from an herb. He said, I could never do an MRI, but I went and did one last week and I took 2 of those. And he said, I almost went to sleep in the MRI. And I love to hear those stories of the green pharmacy. The safety of this is amazing when pharmaceuticals sometimes are not. But, I think we have lost 1, the sense of community. Mm-hmm. 2 is we don't have enough solitude time. We have learned to not be comfortable with quiet and solitude, so we always are distracting. I have to fight that distraction myself, but reconnecting to the earth, having quiet time to yourself, not busy time, and being present instead of doing, you're being. And that's a very important path for myself.
I'm going to show people before the hour is over how to continue hearing from all of you, because many of you have podcasts. Nancy, you're one of them. And I think I'm right that on your Boomer Time podcast, part of what you do is you talk to people like me, whose parents are getting older, to help us know kind of how to successfully navigate these years. Am I right?
Right, because that caregiving experience can be so isolating. And again, you're not there until you're there. Mm-hmm. So it's a completely new foreign experience. So while I'm a estate planning attorney, I also want to be an advocate for those people, because I believe it dovetails and it also helps people understand why they need to do certain things.
Let's talk about being an advocate for a minute, because everyone needs one, legally, medically, which really would be legally. In choosing that advocate, if you have multiple people to choose from, you've got to do some serious thinking, I guess, about who thinks either most like you or who's going to stand kind of strong against you in a way where you might not be so willing to go. How do you ever counsel people through that, any of you, and how do you choose the right advocate?
All the time. And they'll even say to me, I don't want so-and-so ever making any decisions for me. And we can put those, preclusions in the documents. That may avoid litigation, a family dispute, 5-10 years down the road. So those conversations are just essential. You may have one child that cries at the drop of a hat, is just really emotional and sensitive. And then you've got another that's, let them go.
Okay, to that point, we are hopefully going to continue to age well. And so what we think we might want, who we think our kids might be when we're 75, if we live to be 95, we're all going to change a little bit. It seems like there becomes a little bit of pragmatism that hits as we get older, where you know your life is in the ending stages. And it's not quite so difficult for you to talk about it as it might be your kids.
Right.
Is that true? Do you ever experience that?
Oh yeah, it can be a difficult conversation. Maybe, and oftentimes we just came through the holidays. So you'll go and you see your parents and they're not as with it as they were last year. Maybe dad was driving and hit the side of the barrier at the grocery store. Those are tough conversations to have, but they're things that need to be handled right away and in the right way.
Let's talk a little bit about prevention again. One of the audience members have brought up the question of when do you get, and can you get, like a baseline mental test? I only have a minute left, but if I'm 54, should I go and find out how my brain is functioning now?
Yeah, so start with your primary care physician. They can do a couple of things. They can do mini mental status exam. They can do even just mental health evaluation to see, is this anxiety, is this depression, or is this more of a cognitive decline type of presentation that's going on? Is it a hormonal change? Do we need to test for that as well? So start there, and then they can go from there.
We have barely scratched the surface. Again, one of the audience members said we could do a series on this, and I wish that we did have more time. I've got to go to commercial though. When we come back, grab a pen and paper during the commercial, because I'm going to show you how you can continue learning from these panel of experts when we come back.
Feels good to be home. Ashley's President's Day mattress sale is going on now. Get a free adjustable base with any mattress purchase.